What's up, guys? Happy New Year. First of all, got a lot of new and interesting content planned for the year, so what better way to kick it off than with the Behind the Beat series. I've been getting a lot of comments requesting to show my screen, so that's what we're gonna do here in this video. The video did turn out a lot longer than I wanted it to, so I don't want to waste any more time talking with my face, so let's just get into it. Alright, so I got the sample loaded up, and the first thing I did was pick it up a couple semitones, that way we don't get hit with any copyright issues. So here's the sample. Next thing I did was put a high pass filter on the entire sample at around 200 Hertz, lowered the resonance down some. And then I put this Rough Rider compressor on the entire sample. Then I'm going to go ahead and put this EQ over the entire sample. You can do the same thing with the stock EQ that comes with Maschine. So I'm going to put a low cut first and cut off all the low end at about 30 Hertz. Then I'm going to use a high cut to take off some of that high end. So Maschine will actually chop the sample up for you, but I like to do it manually myself. So using the start and end points, I find the part of the sample that I know I want to use first. So if we hold down duplicate and select the pad and then hit the empty pad next to it, it'll paste that exact pad over. So once I've done that, I just duplicate that pad over to the next empty pad and then just slide the start and end point over to the next part of the sample. And that works better for me because it works more as a visual, so I can feel each piece that I'm chopping up and I can chop it up exactly how I want it. I also like using that time stretch if I want to extend a little piece of the sample or shorten a little piece of the sample so it fits better. So this is a loop I came up with. So before I start my drums, I always put a low pass filter on the kicks at about 800 Hertz, and I cut the resonance down again, kick the amount up to about 10%. Then I put that same Rough Rider compressor on the entire group, on the entire drum group, with pretty much the same settings. And this is the groove I came up with. I almost forgot, once you put that compressor on the drums, you want to lower the kick down to at least -10 because it's going to really punch. Also, the drums sound pretty straight as of right there, but there's some things I like to do to help assist the groove, to help push the groove that I want. So one thing I started doing recently was using that same Fab Filter EQ and cutting the low end at about 30 Hertz again, and also cutting off some of that high end at about 17. Then I get a low shelf and kick up some of that low end where that kick's sitting, just to kind of boost that low end a little more. As you can hear, the low end's really starting to kick a lot harder, and that's what we want. So it's starting to sound better. Another thing I want to do is add some more snares. So I'll pick 2 more snares that I think help accent the main snare, like I've done here. You want to try to mix them in real nice. So lowering the volume on a few, highering the volume on another, just to get that nice, clean, crisp snare. Then I'll go ahead and leave the main snare in the center and then pan one of the other snares about 3 nudges to the left and pan another snare 3 nudges to the right. This kind of creates this fuller, rounder snare. Then I'm going to go ahead and mess with the hi-hats by selecting pad mode 16 velocity. And again, I'm always keeping the groove in mind, keeping the feel of the drums in mind, keeping the feel of the drums that I want to create in mind. Messing with the hi-hat velocity always helps create that real feel, and always helps just to swing those drums. So I really want want to accent that fourth hit, that last hi-hat hit. So obviously I'm going to make that hit the loudest and have the other ones kind of roll up to it. Then I selected another hi-hat, lowered it down a couple semitones. I'm just going to use it again to accent that fourth hit on the hi-hat again, just to really try to push that groove. Once you're done with that, don't forget to go back into pad mode and hit fixed velocity. Alright, so the drums are starting to sound a lot better. Let's look at the kick now. So the same principle with the hi-hats we're going to now apply to the kick drum. So with the kick again, I'm going to go into pad mode, 16 velocity. And all the parts where I have that little double kick, that little gugum, I'm going to have that first kick lower than the main kick to just push that swing and that realistic feel of a drum kit. Once you got it, we're going to go ahead and lay that down. Alright, so the bass lines can be tricky. Sometimes you can hear the low end, sometimes it's an off key, so it makes it kind of tricky. But in this situation, when you play the sample, you can really hear that undertoning bass key that it's in. So the first thing I always try to do is find that exact key by copying the exact pattern that I'm hearing. Try to do is find the exact bass notes that I'm hearing in the sample chop. And once I know I got it, it's just a matter of fitting those notes on my track with the same feel that I'm trying to create in this beat. This is what I came up with. The key is Alright, so once I've laid that down, we got a couple ways that we can help beef that bass up a little. So again, I use that same Rough Rider compressor, same settings, and then I go ahead and put another low pass filter on the entire group and cut it at about 800 hertz and lower some of that resonance down, kick the amount up again to about 10%. As you can hear, the bass is already starting to punch a lot more. Then I bring up that Fab Filter EQ. Again, you can do pretty much the same thing with the stock EQ that comes with Maschine. Put a low cut again at around 30 hertz. Cut some of that high end off as well. Then I grab another low shelf filter and kick that low end up wherever I hear that bass sitting at. As you can hear, that really brings that bass out a lot more. Also, before I even put that compressor on, I'm lowering the entire bass about -10 minimum. This is optional, but if you want to get even more tone out of the bass, I use the stock distortion that comes with Maschine. Switch it from analog to Mulholland or whatever that is. Kick the drive down a little bit and add a little more color. It adds a little more tone to the bass that I always like. One of the last things I did was took that trumpet that you hear from the original sample and chopped it up and came up with this little loop. Added the same high pass filter, cut it down around 200 hertz. Pretty much the exact same settings on the Rough Rider compressor as well. The only difference is when I use that Fab Filter EQ, I EQ'd all of the low end out and all of the high end out and boosted a little bit more of that high end. I do that with a lot of my leads or like vocal sample chops that I'm gonna sprinkle on top just so they sit on top of everything really well. Then of course I'm gonna pan that entire trumpet group a little bit to the left. And one of the last things I do, which is optional if you really wanna make the entire track sound fuller, is I'll add a limiter to the master channel. This is the stock limiter that comes with the Maschine, and of course this varies from project to project depending on how you mixed everything. I'll lower the ceiling to about -0.8 to 1.1, and you want to be playing and listening to the track while you're doing this. And I'll start kicking up the threshold on that depth, and I usually land somewhere between 6.8 and 7.2, the highest. That really helps bring out the kick, bring out the sub. You might need to go back and remix and adjust some things so they sit better. But I like using this limiter. If you have everything set up and mixed right, it's a real good way to make the entire track fuller. Alright, that's gonna be a wrap, guys. Thanks for hanging out and sticking through it. Hope you got something out of it. If you didn't, sorry. Thanks for hanging out anyways. Shout out to all the new subscribers. I appreciate every single one of you. Also, if you have any suggestions for the kind of content you'd like to see me do more of, leave it down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys haven't already. And that's all I got, guys. And we're gonna wrap it up with a quick snippet of the beat right after this. Alright, till next time, guys.